The history of football, and he's here all the way from BYU. Tim Nunez, he's from Tulane. I knew Tim when I was coaching in New Orleans. I was down there for 7 years. He was with Tulane, and he was a receiver coach, and now he's come over to the dark side. He is now a mushroom at Marshall. And it's a really happy occasion for me to be here and talk a little bit about the Detroit Lions. I got one question. As I heard these guys talk, I heard Bob talk about the Packers, and they were running that 18 tight. And he made a statement that the Packers don't get off their blocks. Now, are you talking about the Green Bay Packers? Was that 92 guy playing for them?
No, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was the same Packers. The other thing that Paul Alexander brought up about the 3-step drop and how the quarterback will always turn to you and say, get their hands down. And I'm sure the quarterback coach, the gurus of the world, they will also say it. And my point is, fuck them. Because they make $4 million and you don't turn around when they throw an interception and say, why did you do that? So, in my situation, shit happens. And if it gets batted down once in a while, tough shit. All right. What was that little tip that you had? The little 5 things that you started everything. What was that little term that you used? We were going to talk about using tidbits. Okay. My only tidbit is this: on game day, people always say, "What do you do on game day?" Now, I happen to ride over on the first bus, and so doesn't Barry. So when he gets on the bus, I said, "Okay, it's time to go." So that's my tidbit of the day. When he's on the bus, we're going to the stadium. In 1994, we ran 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, 2 backs, 1 backs. We were coaching them up. We were diversified. We finished 15th in the NFL. We won 9 games. We made the playoffs. But we had a quarterback that had been in the league for 6 years, and he only started like 15 games. He's getting paid $4 million based on potential. And Tom Moore is our offensive coordinator, and Tom Moore does not... He's from the old days. He was with the Steelers when they won the Super Bowls. And in his situation, he always tells a story about Mr. Rooney. When Lambert came in after 2 straight Pro Bowls and 2 straight Super Bowls, Lambert wanted $100,000. And the old man said, come back when you do something. So in our situation, we're giving our quarterback $4 million, and he's played on that, and he started 26 games in 6 years. And we're in a situation where we got to a point where we had Barry. We started using 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends. We had 3 first-round draft choices at wideouts. And in 1994, we felt we were okay, but Wayne Fonts, our head coach, said, listen, I got Johnny Morton from USC, a first-round draft choice, Herman Moore, Brett Perriman. They're standing on the sideline where we got this fullback from Nebraska who's a free agent who's going to be selling paint next year in a hardware store. He's out there while I got a first-rounder here. He says, put the best players on the field. So as Bob said, we finished number 1 in offense in the NFL this year, and it was because we fit our offense to our personnel. Now, we don't have the Dallas Cowboy offensive line. We don't have a 260-pound fullback. And Barry is not a lead back tailback. So we decided to do what he does best. Don't constrict him. We loved the counter OT. When I was at New Orleans, we ran it to death. And we liked it because our runners could run it. Barry is not the kind of guy that you can say, this is where you run the ball and stay with it. All right? We also decided that we didn't want to run any 7-step drops. And the only reason we decided that, Tom Moore and I were standing on the sideline after our quarterback got hit in '94. And he came out. Anybody ever see the movie Bambi? You ever see it before that hunter was going to kill Bambi's mother? You see the eyes of that deer when that hunter was going to kill? A deer with headlights. That's what our quarterback looked like on a 7-step drop. So we said, piss on that. 3 or 5-step, and we're not going to throw 7-step because at 21, come back to 15, forget it. He is running. He ain't setting his feet or throwing. So we decided that we cut the sacks down. In 93, they had 48 sacks. In 94, we had 28. So we wanted to make sure that the guy had some success. He wasn't a starter in the league, but he was our guy. We committed to him. We gave him all that money, and we made sure that we had to get the ball to Barry. In '94, he averaged 25 to 30 carries a game. We looked at the Buffalo Bills. They had 3 wideouts. They had Thurman Thomas. They went to 4 Super Bowls. And in those 4 Super Bowls, they always say, running the ball and defense wins. And one year, I think they finished in defense first, in the top 5. Every other year, they were 15, 18. In our defense, we're 28th in the league. So we felt like if we could keep the ball away, keep our defense off, we'd have a chance. We finished with 10 wins. We got to the playoffs. We got beat. But in our situation, the best thing about finishing first in the NFL is no coach on our staff had ever worked in the West Coast offense. We didn't read Bill Walsh's book. We don't know Bill Walsh. None of us even met Bill Walsh. We call it the Great Lakes offense. And in our situation, Tom Moore believes in running the ball. He believes in trapping. He believes in working and helping the passing game by running the ball. We threw the ball 60% and ran it 40 times. Our philosophy with a one-back has changed. The only way you run the ball is if they let you. If they don't let you run the ball, we throw it. So we go 6 in the box and 7 in the box. Talk a little bit about Barry Sanders. One thing that made this whole thing work for us and why we were successful. In '94, he had 1,883 yards rushing. This year he had 1,500. Some people would say, well, that was an off year for Barry. But in the 383 yards that he didn't rush for this year, we threw the ball 1,400 more times. 1,400 more yards. And we said to Barry, listen, your carries are going to go from 25 to 30 to maybe 19, but we're going to try to throw it to you 10 more times. And he said, hey, Boo, whatever works. And he didn't hold any press conferences. He wasn't in the game. We played Tampa Bay 2 years ago. He had 260 yards rushing on Sunday night. He said, hey, you got a chance to go in there and get 300. You might get 2,000. We got a few more games to go. He said, Boo, I don't need it. I shut it down. He sat on the bench. He ain't getting hurt in the fourth quarter for stats. That isn't what he's all about. And the only reason we are successful is because of him. And, you have a great play, you don't want to screw him up. The one other statistic that was important for us is in the red zone. We were in the red zone 59 times. We scored 51 times. We had 30 touchdowns, and we took the knee twice. We took the knee against Tampa Bay, and with 7 minutes to go against Jacksonville, we were beating them 44-0. I had my Pro Bowl center was in the game. He didn't want the guy to get hurt. I had nobody else to put in for him. Wayne said, take a knee. Mikowski's in there in the game. He says, hey, boys, you ain't going to believe this one. Take a knee. So we did. And it was one of those deals where we're real successful. Our 1st and 10 package is our 3rd and short package. Our 1st and 10 package is our 3rd down. We're going to be 3 wideouts and 1 back all over the field. Okay? And what had happened to us in '94 was this. Our number 1 play was the belly play, the inside zone. And just like everybody here that talked about it, okay, we basically are reading the guy over the guard, the first covered lineman. We would rather run the ball at the 3 technique because of Barry. His big thing is cutback. He will come back here, he will come back here. And his whole thing is he sees everything. I don't know, some college guys get the Polaroids, we get the Polaroids. I have one rule for my linemen. Don't ever tell Barry where to run. He's going to make you look like a jerk sometimes because he cut it back and you were going for the ass block and the guy's back there and you got him cut off and you're going to run right into a tackle. But every time he does that, about 5 more times, when you miss, he's going to make a big play and make you look good. So your rule is do not talk to Barry on the sideline and tell him where to go. In 1974, I was at offense-defense camp, where they used to sell tape for 25 cents. Some of you guys might know that. You used to have offense-defense camp, and I heard a guy named Richie Pont. And every day, Jimmy would organize it. He said, we're talking football tonight. And Jimmy would get up and talk about the kick step. And Richie Pont was a running back coach from Yale. And he looked like the little nutty professor. His hair was out. And he started talking about running backs and their belly play. And he kept on saying vision. And I'm saying, what the hell is this guy talking about, vision? I'm worried about the open crossover. And until I started to coach at Detroit and coach with Barry Sanders, then I knew what he was talking about. Barry makes his move on these guys. He already knows where he's going when he gets the ball. Our only rule is this. The uncovered lineman and Barry, when he gets the ball, if his shoulders are going that way, the uncovered lineman, his shoulders have to be the same way. So when I know my guys are doing it right, they take and they open and they bucket or drop step, and you've all heard about it tonight and this afternoon about where you're supposed to be. Your second step. Where does your second step go? Where does your first step go? Now, Bob Wiley talked a little bit about 6 inches outside the sternum. My guys, when things move, that 6 inches moves. So I give my guys a little bit different landmark. On the inside zone play, if I'm a covered guard and I got a 3 technique, I give him the landmark of the feet of the down guy. If that guy's a wide 3, I'm going to bucket, and my second step goes to his inside shoe. That way my head will go to where he's talking about. If that guy is head up, and I think I might get that guy crash inside, and I can step here and do this, go ahead. But if you're not a good enough athlete, then I'm not going to force it down your throat. You take an inside lead step. So my landmark is inside shoe. So if I'm the tackle here and I'm helping my tight end on this look right here, my second step goes to the linebacker's inside shoe. If that end is inside shoulder of the tight end, I'm going to step. I'm looking at that linebacker. My shoe goes to his shoe. My third step is up the field, and you'll see it on my drill tape. The third step has got to get up the field. So my shoulder's got to be like this because I know Barry's going to probably cut it back. He is making his move off the safety. On the backside, it's the same thing. I want to get more movement, just like Jim was talking about earlier. I want more movement on that. Make him run a hump. And don't worry about coming off. The only time you have to come off is if that guy disappears or he makes that kind of angle. Move the down guy. So my landmark is shoe. And when we get to the stretch play, we go different with our feet. But I'm talking feet and not head placement. That was our number 1 play. We averaged 6.2 going right and 6.5 going left. Now you're saying to me, how smart is this guy? They did away with that play and they put a different play in the 95. Because our head coach didn't want this guy here, who's a farmer from Michigan State, who's now a farmer in Michigan State. And we had a first-round draft choice that we were standing on the sideline. So he wanted receivers out there. So you have to have a guy on the back side to run the inside zone play, or you'd be running into this all day long, unblocked guy. So now, to jazz it up a little bit, we went from the belly play where the 2 tight ends, it was a check with me thing. We always want to run to a 3 technique. So if they had the 3 technique to our right, we'd stay with it, we wouldn't motion. If the 3 technique was to our left, we'd go ahead and run it. Now I watched some film here of, I think it was Paul they had against Sam Mills. And the one thing when you go to check with me, linebackers, Spielman, those guys, they even odd. They figure that shit out after about the 3rd play. So we'll guess in the huddle sometimes. We'll say 34 belly. And if we get up over the ball and the 3 technique is over here, our quarterback would just go up and say opposite, opposite. He don't know opposite what. We'll do it on a pass play. So instead of always going 34, 35, 18, 19, we just get up over the ball and give them an opposite call. That means we're not going to run 34, we're going to run 35. We're running it at the 3 technique. We want to run it at safety support because we know Barry's going to cut the thing back. Okay? That was 94. That was a good play for us. We took it out of our offense. Okay? Now, we went, how do we run the belt? Well, if we had 6 in a box, and I don't care what you call these guys, Will or Nickel Will, our first thing was we'd like to run the belly to the weak side if they let us. So if we had a situation, and this is what a lot of people did to us, 4-2 defense, they boss the mic over, they bring the safety down, and they get to a 7-man front, or they would dick with this guy. They bring him in and out, in and out. So all we had to say to the quarterback was, you get up over the ball if it is fair. Run it weak. What do I mean fair? Can our center block that nose guard without chip help from the left guard? If he can't, then run it strong. If it was a straight 4-2 defense and it was a one technique over the guard, run it weak. Run it weak. And the same thing holds true. You can go check with me, or you can get up and say, I'm going to call it weak. If they let me run it weak, I stay with the play. If they don't let me run it weak, go opposite, run it the other way. And again, your quarterback has to call opposite on a few pass plays too, because then you have a dead giveaway. If you have a problem where you're running it, where this guy is inside when you line up the tight end on the ball, then you just jazz it up and we go yo-yo motion. Or we fly the motion, where you can have an inside-out angle. So they don't always force you into scraping out there, and now you can't block the combo with your tight end. So you trap your end. You snap it, you trap it. And your tackle would always take the zone step. Tackle, you're uncovered. Your shoulder's got to be like Barry's when he gets the ball. Okay? The other thing that happened to us is because of all those people coming down into the front, and they made a 6-man front into a 7-man front, we had to go ahead and call what we call the slant play, is the stretch play. And you've all heard people talking about it today. Here's what we're saying in the slant play. All right, we'd like the tight end to be on the ball. Now, the tight end, your footwork and the tackle's footwork and the guard's footwork, your landmarks are this. If I get the guy dead head up, okay, now my landmark is now on the inside play. As the tight end, he's stepping, his shoe is in his inside shoe. Now on the outside play, his landmark is the crotch of the down guy. He'd take a bucket, his second step is here, and his third step has got to clear the hip. Because on defense, what those defensive coaches teach them on all kinds of stunts, when you're swimming and ripping, get your hip by the offensive lineman's hip. So your second step can't be here, second step down, you can't be doing this, because then you're going sideways. So your third step has got to go through. It's a power. Boom, boom, and then get up the field with your outside foot. You're going to protect your tackle with your inside leg through the crotch. So there's your landmark. Don't make it a head. Some guys, it works for them when they're head. You know, head is good. All right, now, we got in a situation here where I'm going through his crotch. His third step is here. So now my tackle has got to protect the inside on that tight end. So the wider he is, the deeper I step. So now I don't have any kind of run-through possibility if that guy's at normal depth, only if he cheats up. Now I want to cross over, and I want to take over that defensive end. If we have to push him, we both push him, and we might never ever block him, and this is where Bobby was talking about. That's Barry's guy. The guy goes over the top, stay on the end, let Barry take care of it. Okay? This guy uses a rip technique. He buckets, and now, if that guy disappears inside, piss on him. Barry, we're telling you, you are running from here to out here. This is not a cutback play. Now, the center, the quarterback has to know if this is a fair block. If I'm only in the strong A again, my center feels I can get him, he goes through. Sometimes he may pull. DeMonte Dawson at Pittsburgh's the best one I've ever seen. Glover's not bad, but if he feels I can get through, clip him. This guy knows that the center got a go call, so he got to pull and clip. Now, if you're playing the Giants, they like to grab your face mask. They like to grab hold of your center. We tell them to go right for the fucking knee. They want to grab us, you go for the knee. Blow them up. This guy here, he goes on a slice technique, and if he sees the safety coming down, because he's seen that linebacker boss over, he works straight up and he cuts off the safety. And we're telling him to run the stretch play. So instead of running the belly, which they took away because they brought this guy down and they dick with us in the cadence. They're always bringing him down, and you can't block it. We go ahead and we say we want to run a play, not have to check it, run the slant strong. Now the other thing we'll do is if their corners play off, our wideouts are probably the best in the NFL, in my opinion, on blocking. We always block safeties with the wideouts because there's not a corner in the league that's worth a shit coming up and playing the run, including Dion. So we get and we crack their safeties because Ronnie Lott and those guys are a hell of a lot better at tackling than Deion Sanders. So we come down and crack guys and let Barry take care of the corner. If they're going to try to jam and press you and run with you, that's fine. He's got his back turned. That gives Barry a chance to get to the sideline. So that's what we call our stretch play or our slant play, and that's basically what we get. Most of the people play against us is they bring that guy down. Okay, now, what happens if they play 7 in the box and you want to run the play? Now, you saw Bob in Tampa Bay, and they ran it, and they were successful on the clips that they had. My only problem with this is Barry. Barry likes to cut things back. And when you got a real loose 5 and a loose 9, okay, and they won't let you hook them. They won't let you run like you saw Bob's guys. They were running. This guy did a tremendous job, hell of a center, coming down and running. But what happens is, his natural thing was stay outside, their guy. Our guy's a different guy. He likes to come and do this. And when he did that, that put a real pressure on our tackle. Now, Bob's answer is block down, pull the tackle, pull the guard. I worry about handoff because when the guy blocks down, this guy's here at the handoff, it's a blow up, and that's the thing that worried me. So what worked for us, I'm not saying he's got a better idea, I have a better idea. What worked for the Detroit Lions was we used a trade block, similar to what Jimmy was talking about. We worked for the front side, and I told him, forget about a run-through. Unless run-through is this guy creeps up, we got down calls, but you're going to go ahead and step with your outside foot, come through the crotch, and this guy would take Jim Hannafin's gap step, and he tried to stay square. Don't use your off arm and get involved here because you'll never get off on that linebacker. Try to stay square, and if you have to, run the linebacker over the top. What would happen is if this guy hangs a little bit and you get any kind of movement, that keeps this nose guard from running flat down the line of scrimmage because there's a little bit of movement here and you can keep this thing outside. What else do they do? Well, on defense, okay, when you got a down block, most of the time the Sam linebacker will take it on with the wrong shoulder. So we say to Barry, if he does that, you run right at him and then bounce it. All right, you are reading the down block there. If that guy works up the field, you stay in that crease. If that guy takes it on wrong shoulder, slant becomes the stretch play. It stays outside, let him block himself. The guard, you're thinking kick up. If you log him, it's on the run. You got no time to think. It's an explosion. You hook him on the run. You don't even know you hook him. Most people, when they get a down block, they see the G guard. They're taking it on the wrong shoulder. You're going to get an outside play. On the backside, these two guys just scoop, and like Bobby said before, you got the exclamation point that's telling Barry that guy ain't blocked. You're on your own. Now we can do this in any formation. I mean, we could be in trips. We can bring him across in motion. I mean, you can do anything you want with those little shits out there. But this is an offensive line clinic, so who cares what they do? Right now, this is what we're talking about. This is the thing we feel like if he comes over the top, that tight end makes an adjustment, and he blocks out, and maybe it'll cut up underneath. But we're forcing him to stay in the lane to outside. Where belly was a big-time cutback play for us, because we didn't have anybody on the backside end, we couldn't run belly anymore. So we ran the slant. Now, if you guys like to run two backs and you like to run the strong eye, we did this. I got this on tape. You'll see. All right, let's say, for instance, you got a guy that likes to wham, okay? And if that guy steps up because he sees wham, all right, you got the G scheme. If that guy takes it on the wrong shoulder, these two guys can pin. Now that back keeps it outside. You got a runaway. So if you want to run this out of two backs and you want that linebacker to step up because he sees near back coming, and this is a good way to blow this guy. That's Jerkovic. You don't like those guys chopping him. All right? You just go ahead and chip him and go backside. Now, on the backside, if you got a chance, Sean Jones and Reggie, here's where you can go ahead, set, and cut him. Cut him. Work your cuts. Chop block, roll, leg whip. Well, who gives a shit over there? It ain't happening over there. So give you a shot. Give a chance for your guys to go ahead and play around and get on their legs a little bit. But if you want to run the slant play out of two backs, and as soon, we call it slant. If you get an over defense, it was just everybody scoop, everybody slip. When you get a guard bubble, it turns into a G scheme. You don't have to call it two different plays. It's automatic. The tight end reads it, the guard reads it, boom, we're G'ing it. Barry's got the same read. He's running for the butt of the tight end. Whether you kick it out or whether you slip it, he's got the same read. And like Paul said, today, I mean, the quarterback, they're reaching like hell to get there. Okay? And then you tell them, go ahead and run the naked, try to hold that guy. But that guy isn't a factor. But when I tell the guys on the backside, screw around with him, there's your chance to go ahead and cut. Okay, so we turn the slant into a wham scheme. If, just for those guys, if you want to run it against an over, which we never got against, but this is how we were going to block it. We weren't going to wham the 3 technique. They had the mic here and the will on the line. We were going to go ahead and wham like that, okay, and block down, block him, and GR guard, which is our next scheme, okay? And on the backside, these two guys would just feint. So against an over and under, the slant play was going to be blocked that way. And it was a learning thing for the fullback. I'm whamming the nose. If there's no nose, I'm whamming backside to the mic. Just trying to get that guy to freeze. When you block down, that guy steps up, that's great. Because then he hooks himself. Now Barry can option run off the end. So that's our what we call wham out of the 2 backs, and it was wham slant. It was a stretch play. All right? Now, you saw Bob run this in Tampa as well. Let's say, for instance, John Terlink, our defensive public enemy #1, as the Mushrooms call him, our defensive line coach, he's the guy that likes to leg whip the quarterbacks after they throw the ball. Now he's on our side, so he's a hell of a guy. But right here, what we call is a tug block. And when you say if